we are. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you, except I can't see you, obviously. But I know you're there. I see the numbers counting upward as more and more people are logging in. And today is Friday, May 15th, and this has got to be about our eighth or seventh or eighth Unity Forum. This is something that we established back when the pandemic first started as a way for us to kind of connect with our wonderful community of stakeholders. That's our staff. That's our legislators we've heard from. And today we're going to be checking in with some of our special family members who have either their sisters or sons home with them and who've been accessing some of our virtual programming. You'll see in a few moments as I introduce our first guest. This is many of them are sort of beloved members of our community in various parts of the organization, and we talk a lot about the core values that make us who we are as an organization, and unity being right up there. CU, community unity, being so key, and belonging, the third one. So many of our core values we're really leaning hard on them during this time of challenge and uncertainty and anxiety, and the fact that we really have this sense that we belong together. Our families may be out of sight, but they're certainly not out of mind. And we are trying to use these opportunities to unite all of us together. One quick little side note: you may notice me wearing my social distancing champions. If you don't have your shirt, order it today. You can get it off of our website, and a portion of every sale goes directly towards NuPath. It'll be a collector's item when this is all, I hope, sooner than later, a distant memory. But we're not going to think about anything negative today. We're going to think about positive things and about the joy and the incredible support that we find in so many of our reaches of our organization and amongst our families. And so with that, I'm going to ask Greg to pull up our first guest today, and that would be Betsy and James Beaulieu. They are together in Betsy's home today, and there they are.
Here we are.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
So good to see you. Hey, James.
Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Now, James, are you nervous?
Yeah, I'm nervous.
No, he says he's not nervous.
He's not nervous, and neither are you, Betsy, because you're a natural. You're going to be a natural.
I don't know about that.
You have been part of our NuPath family, and the date that I have is November 21st, 2011.
Yes.
That's a long time. That's like going on 9 years, 8.5 years.
I think it's even longer. I think James moved into Mill Street in 2008.
Well,
think
you know what? Now that you say that, I'm wondering, because 2008 is about the time we opened Mill Street, and he moved right in when we opened it. So you've been with us a very long time. Maybe 2011 is when we first started. Well, maybe that's when we first started becoming more aware of you, Betsy, as being the fearless and foreboding fundraiser that you are. You've created quite a name for yourself and for James, who you've told me before that in your fundraising you have such a wide network of family that cares so dearly about James, and that's who you lean on for your fundraising time. But we've sure enjoyed having you part of it. You won't mind if I brag on you a little bit from some statistics about your fundraising, would you?
Okay.
But since during the years of 2000, well, from 2015 to 2019, and I'm questioning some of these dates too, because let's start back. I remember when I first became CEO in 2013. We had written a letter. You're the one, I think I remember. We'd written a note saying, thank you for your fundraising. And then the next year, you didn't hear anything from anyone. You said, oh, I thought that the next year I did more. And I didn't hear any. That was you, wasn't it?
It is. It was a volunteer who wrote me that letter. And I wish I could think of her name. She's a cute girl with red hair. Caitlin, maybe? I don't remember.
But I remember feeling so bad about that, because then looking at the data you had, I'm like, we've got to do a much better job. In some ways, you could say that you were the impetus for the sort of reimagination of how we did our fundraising with the peer-to-peer model, because over time you were first place fundraiser 2015, you were second place fundraiser 2017, And that is not easy. That is not an easy task because this has gotten more fiercely competitive. And all told, you have raised over $15,000 for this
Really?
organization.
I did not know that.
That is an
Hey, look,
incredible,
here's James and Mom.
incredible
Here's Jen.
feat. And don't we look good in royal blue? I think that was
We
the year
do.
Blue,
my hip.
Yeah.
blue, blue.
You have, I want to hear about how you're using the virtual programming, but I just did want to remember that, you know, you lost your husband Peter in 2000, was it 16, 2000?
Yeah, 2016.
And
Yeah.
I remember feeling, and then I lost my father about a year later, I think
I
it was.
remember that. Yeah.
And I just remember just feeling such great, you know, just concern and care for you. And it was a tough time. I know it was, and I don't mean to bring that up, but you know, I often say that our relationships with family members are really like a family. You know, we're going to go through good times, there may be some tough times, but at the end of the day, you know, we really need to be able to depend on one another. And you have James at home with you.
I
And
do.
and you made the decision to have him home during this time. And how have you been using our virtual programming initiative, or you know, the morning meetings and some of those other things? How have you found it to be?
Well, it was Ken Sinabaldi who really reached out to me and said, come on, why don't you get James to watch? And we started with the noontime program and had some success. But then he began the No Walls program that's at 9 o'clock in the morning. And at first, James would only watch for maybe 15 minutes or so, but then gradually longer. And now he watches the whole thing. He looks forward to it. He tells me he's going to have his meeting with Ken in the morning. So that's been a good thing. Ken's done a very clever job of coming up with things that the guys will be interested in and engaging them.
What would be some examples? I haven't caught Ken, but Ken's just a wonderful, a dear staff of ours. What kinds of things, James, what kinds of things do you like hearing about? What sorts of things are really the hot topics of the day?
What one of Ken's did you like hearing about? I think he showed about going down in a submarine one time.
Ooh.
And he played Yellow Submarine, and we thought about Yellow Submarine for the rest of the day. So
that's the kind of song that was like the earworm that would like get in your head. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So there've been some fun things he's done. Yeah.
What would you? I mean, this I'm sure hit you just like it did the rest of us, just with this force of unexpected. You know, none of us could have imagined that What has it been like for you? How have you managed to, you know, sort of, you know, distance and to stay at home, and what have been some of the challenges that you've been facing and dealing with?
Well, the whole situation is rather a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm glad that I brought James home. It was a hard decision to make, but I think it's been best for him, and I think it's actually been best for me as well. It's forced me to be in a routine. And again, we've gotten a lot of support from friends and family who have, not family so much because they're not nearby, but friends who have helped us with shopping, or I've used Instacart, so we haven't been going into stores. And we're lucky to live in an area where we can go out and walk, and it's quiet and there are not a lot of people, so it's easy to socially distance. So any day it's not raining, we get out there for 2 walks.
I do you.
I get James to help me around the house. He empties the dishwasher and helps with the cleaning, don't you? And the laundry. Do you help?
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Do you think of anything else that you think as an organization that we could be helpful with, or is there some way that something we've done where we could do something more to be helpful or useful to you, or do you have the supplies you need? Is there anything else that you could think of a way that we could be more of a resource during this time where you've got him home? And
I can't really. I have been in touch both with Jen, his program manager, though she's out on leave, but I've been in touch with her, and with Doreen somewhat, and it's very reassuring to me to just know they're there and I can call on them. And Doreen has told me repeatedly, look, if something happens, if you need us, just call us and we'll look after them. We'll figure it out. So that is very reassuring, just to know that backup is there. And apart from that, luckily, we're able to manage.
Well, it sounds like you make a very, formidable, sort of group of partners there, together. And I wonder whether or not it's going to be once things start to go back to normal, some normal kinds of rhythms.
Mhm.
You're probably going to miss him when he leaves. You're getting used to having him around to take up the trash or whatever else you
That's
do.
right. No, that's true. I think it's going to be an adjustment for both of us, actually. When I picked him up on March 24th, of course, I never expected it to last so long. Well, none of us did then.
Oh.
So, yeah, I think it's going to be a transition for both of us.
Mhm. And Betsy, a lot of our families are dealing, and as you said, you think that you made the right decision. I thought, oh boy, there's probably families out there that maybe are doubting and wondering whether or not they should have taken their kids home. But each case is different.
Exactly.
Each person requires a different level of care, or it can be managed in a different sort of a way. I mean, I've honestly, you've probably heard me talk about my mother who's in an assisted living, and
Yeah, I know, dear thing.
taking her out and putting her in a hotel, like an extended stay sort of place, just so I could, because there's just some things that you just feel like you almost need like a family member to like do for somebody, like
Mhm.
it's just very hard to rely on. But at the same time, my mother's got needs that are being met by
Right.
this program that I don't know that we could do with with all that's going on. And so in your case it worked out well to take them home, but in other people's cases it might not be the case. Well,
Yeah, yeah. And I know that what he loves his Without Walls Day program. And once
yeah,
the day program was canceled and there were no more trips out of the house, he really wasn't very happy being there. I mean, he loves the setup as it is, but once everything changed, he wasn't
right.
so happy and he started telling the staff he wanted to come here. And I think he was right. He helped make the decision and it
Yeah.
was the best thing, I think.
Well, I know that James is part of the Team Coolidge group. This is the Walls
Yeah.
group that goes out and been very active, and that's probably been a positive thing for you to see him
Oh,
engaged.
yes.
I mean, that's a very popular model that we have, that a
Yes.
lot of our folks are involved in. And interestingly, as we've been talking about, in fact, I just was on a call, ADDP and DDS call this morning, and so much of the focus is now looking toward what the future is going to look like and how can we reimagine day services in maybe some new ways. And we really think that this whole idea of not even going into a facility, but rather becoming part of a community, and sort of circumventing that altogether, if possible,
Mhm.
is going to be the answer to a future where we're
Yeah, could be.
you
Yeah.
know trying to very much limit large groups of people coming in together, being in transportation
Mhm.
vehicles together, and not being able to social distance. So have you guys
Yes.
gotten tested yet, either one of you, or you haven't had a need to?
No, no, we haven't been tested. Of course, we're not around anybody. We haven't been anywhere.
It's
So we
true.
haven't had an opportunity to be tested, but I very much doubt that we've been exposed at this point.
Yeah. Well, I know you catch a lot of our forums, and you watch a lot of the content that we're putting out. You guys are just an extremely important part of this organization. We miss you, and we're glad you're doing okay. It's great to see your smiling faces, and just continue to pray for all good things to evolve for you, and don't get too used to not being at Mill Street, though, James, is what I'm saying. I need you to come back at some point when this is behind us, okay?
Go back. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Okay. He'll be
All
ready
right,
when
well, I'm
it's
sure I got
time.
the scores I'm keeping you away from. Betsy, you're terrific. Thank you so much for chatting with us.
You're welcome.
All of NuPath was just as happy as I was to see you. Thanks so
We
much.
love NuPath. Yep.
NuPath.
NuPath, there you go, James. Thank you, James. Good to see you. Be safe, be healthy, be well.
See you. Good.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, yes. Who was I talking to last Friday after I left? It was heading out west. But they said, well, do you have to do it on, excuse me, you have to do it on Friday. And I said, well, I like ending it on Friday because I'm always in a kind of good mood after I've talked to people. It's just good to see people's faces. And sometimes it's kind of thing where you don't see somebody for a while and then you see their face, you're like, oh my God, not that you forget about them, but it's just, there's so few people I actually see face to face anymore. And if we didn't have these opportunities, I just don't even know what things would be like. So, all right. And now we move onward to a father-son a duet, as it were. Actually, this is a group that it's pretty high marks for their use of our virtual offerings at 84%. There they are.
Say hi.
Hi, Danny, and hi, Dan. But I know that we at NuPath reverse your family sort of your monikers for one another, because you're known, Dan Senior, you're known as Danny, are you not? And
Correct. Yes.
not as Dan, but we know you in the reverse. We
That's
refer
right.
to Senior as Dan and son as Danny. Hey, Danny, how you doing? You know, I saw him. I saw you, Danny, at one of our morning meetings, and I love how
Okay.
you have the answers to your. You would hold up the signs with answers.
Right.
Really quick on the draw with that. You know, every time there'd be a question, like I didn't even know how you were writing it down that fast. You'd be like Mother's Day. You'd have.
Yeah.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much for being part of this. Since you're at 84% of use of our forums and our town halls, that this is not the first Unity forum that you've seen. Then probably you.
Correct.
So
No.
when you received the call from Brett to participate, you knew what you were stepping into then.
We had a pretty good idea. Yes. Of
Well,
course, we also listened to the others, and I'm like, after listening to people like Bessie and Amy and the people that cared for the people at New Boston Street, I was like, I'm not sure we got a whole lot to contribute.
No, you sure do. And you know what? Um, the idea behind this is really to try to spread a really wide net and try to pull in, people from all different corners of the organization. Like I said before, where different people are coming from, and everybody's situation is a little unique. But one thing is commonly unites us, that we are part of NuPath. This pandemic has put us into stay-at-home orders and trying to make sure that we're staying safe. How's Cindy doing? Is she good?
Yeah, she's well. She works at a bank, so she's still working every day.
Every day.
Every day. So she's going through a merger, so she's in there every day training and things like that. So Daniel and I are kind of joined at the hip for the last 2 months.
Well, you guys staying out of trouble?
What do you think? Are we staying out of trouble? Yeah.
You know what? I remember when back to when you first joined the organization, if you recall, there was a lot of uncertainty as to whether or not the regional director or the area director were going to confirm. And didn't I call you at Memorial Day weekend? Is that
Dan, you remember that well. Do you remember they told us there's no way that regional director is going to allow somebody from the South Shore to live in a home on the North Shore.
Yeah.
And they were adamant. We were told she turned us down the first few times.
Several
and
times.
Then all of a sudden, Memorial Day weekend, Friday afternoon, and all of a sudden you called me and go, he's in. We were like, what? Yeah, that was.
I remember wanting to talk to Cindy because so much of my conversation has been with your wife. And you said, well, she's out. I think she was out with her friends or sister or something. She goes, well, here's her cell phone. Do you remember giving me your cell phone?
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe you remember that.
Well, the reason I remember is because, I think back to those early days, and my job has changed so much now. I regret I don't have the same connection, but people probably don't believe it anymore. Our new families probably don't realize how involved I once was.
Right.
But, I didn't want you guys to have to go through another weekend not knowing. And even though it was a long weekend was ahead of us, and most people were thinking about, good weather and being out and everything. And it was late on Friday too. I remember.
Yeah. I think you would. I forget where you were going. You may have been driving out to the western part of the state or something like that. Yeah.
I remember. I think I might be coming from Western. It's so funny what you remember. Look, you guys have been such an important part of our organization for all these years, and that's going back to 2011, right? Or do you remember when did he turn 20?
It's been 12 years.
12 years.
So about 08.
Right. So that's going back even a little earlier than the date I had. But you guys were also featured in our very first annual celebration, if you recall.
Absolutely, I do.
And we talked that year, and that was the first. Many of us have thought back to it about how that first year, even though in subsequent years after that, it got much more lavish and much more, high tech and all the rest. That first year was so great. But that was the year that Danny, you were sick. You were in the hospital.
You remember? Yeah. He sure was.
And I don't know if Greg's got it handy, but we were looking at a picture earlier of the two of you that well, and actually your mother too, Cindy. But when you guys were in the
Oh
hospital,
my God. Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
And we talked that year that was our first annual celebration, as I said, and we talked about we talked about the summits of life where there's moments in our lives that are just so wildly exciting, the birth of a child, getting married, like huge things that we'll never forget. And then we have the valleys of life, and those are the times when we feel low, we're scared, we sickness, loss of different things. And so you guys, I remember that you were willing to feature and illustrate an example of the valleys of life. And then the third one was talking about the journeys of life. And then all of us, we were together, and you wrote a beautiful letter that we read, if you recall,
Yep.
that year. And you guys you've had quite a few issues. Then you had your own health issues after
Well,
that.
that's what I was going to say. I wasn't able to attend because Dan was battling the cancer and I was going through a liver transplant at the exact same time. So think of my poor wife, Yeah. And, here we are, we're 6 years later. He's been cancer free. I was lucky enough to get a new liver and, life goes on. We're very, very, very lucky, Dan.
Well, if you get your wife to sit down today after she's done merging banks and taking over the world, and I hope she watches this. And if she does, I just say, Cindy, you are a force of nature. You really are the just even before we even knew Danny. I mean, her advocacy and
Right.
support, and you guys have just been really incredible family member.
Yeah,
Talk to
huge.
us about how you're using the virtual kinds of offerings that how do you set up your routine, or how do you incorporate some of that stuff? Because
Yeah.
I've only seen Danny in one of them, but like, what do you do?
Right. Well, when we first came home, of course, we didn't know 2 months later we'd still be sitting here.
I know.
But the hardest thing for us was getting a routine in the Daniel, you listening? And I'm talking about you, okay? The hardest thing was really getting a routine down, and it was funny because I remember the first Monday we were home, he got up, got his backpack, he was all set to go to NuPath.
Oh,
And oh yeah, and this went on the first 3 Mondays. And because that was his routine, and Dan is all about routine. So anyway, we were trying to come up with something, and I think we were home for a week, maybe 2, and we got an email about the Zoom meetings. Okay, well, like we have no idea what it is, but let's check it out. The very first one we did was the morning meeting. And instantly he fell right into the routine because they did the same thing that they did at the morning meetings every day at NuPath. Okay, so he really took to it very, very quickly. Now, being completely nonverbal, he couldn't answer the question. So that's when we came up with the cards that you saw him using. There you go, Danny, look. See that? Yeah. So anyway, so it really started the routine, and that's at 10 a.m. every morning. So he gets up literally at 8. We go out for coffee at 9. We're back. We're at morning meeting, and then after that we watch them all. You know what I mean? And then we really started to go to the morning meeting every single day. But then at 11 o'clock, there's a fitness one. And I got to tell you, the people that run these meetings are fantastic, Dan. I'm sure you know that. But that morning meeting, she's got 2 screens going, and she never misses a card or anything like that. You know what I mean? And Alexa and Emily both are the same way. And but then we get into the fitness one at 11 with James and Amy and Roberto.
Yeah.
Follow me? And if I'm taking up too much of your time, Dan, let me know.
No. I want to hear about it.
But what happened with that one, it was interesting because that's one of the things that we were doing is working out in the morning, just trying to get him some exercise because we couldn't go anywhere. The weather was terrible, if you remember, for the first month of this, right? And so we tuned into the first one, and sure enough, I'm like, I wonder, if this is going to be intense or, how much are they really going to do? Well, the very first week, James has a trainer there, a personal trainer. And let me tell you, for the first 5 days, this guy really ran it through, and it was real aggressive. you know, and by the end of the week, they really had a routine down, and I tell you, we've been going to that every day since, and it's a good hard workout. James, when he does it just as hard. Amy, Roberto, every single one of them, it's pretty intense.
Wow.
you
Wow.
know? And
That is amazing to hear. You know, I had mentioned to Betsy just before this is that part of what's being talked about now is, as we think about the phases and reintroducing programming for folks, just what that's going to look like, and at what pace are we going to be able to bring people back on, and really trying to understand that the future is going to look something that's probably some sort of a at least for the foreseeable, couple, 2, 3 years, as we're trying to get, a handle on this through a vaccine or, testing, it's going to look a lot different than how it's been. So we really wanted to just highlight and talk to people that we're using it well, and we're learning how to adapt. As we get so wrapped up in our routine sometime, grabbing the backpack everybody morning, ready to go back, and so how is some of this deviation from our routine? How are we managing with some of that? But it sounds like the two of you are really, you're pioneers in making this work. And as I said, you've got among some of the highest utilization rates of our virtual programming, 84%. So good job. You should pat yourselves on the back for that.
Yeah. Well, again, it's become our new routine, so it's worked out very well. Very helpful for us.
Well, that is great to hear. And Danny, you just keep coming up with your answers and writing them down. I think that could not be a better way of doing it. And I know that we miss you. We're so glad that you're still there with us virtually. Give your wife my very best and tell her I was thinking about her with all great affection. And I'm glad to see you guys all doing well down there on the South Shore. Wrong shore. It's okay. We'll step back before I do that.
All right. Well, Dan, thanks very much for having us on. I appreciate it. And thanks for everything.
Great to see you guys. Be good.
You too.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Did you?
All right. 2 out of 3. Now, our next guest is actually a sister trio. We have Janice Thompson and Marianne Kittery. Marianne has been attending our Martin Center for many years. And anybody who knows Janice Thompson knows that she is, first of all, well, I don't want to embarrass her, but I've been known to that. I always think she looks like Diane Lane, the beautiful movie star. But she is, they're both just a force of just an incredible force and an important part of the Martin Center community. And I hear a voice. I don't see a face yet, but I think I hear Mary Ann someplace there in the ethers when they get their camcorder kind of sorted out. And I believe they're at their sister Carol's. And you're Carol, right? Is that your name, Carol? We're using your laptop or something. Oh, we've got a whole bunch of people there. Hey. Hi, Mary Ann. You going to tell us who's all there with you today?
Yeah. Dad,
Jan and Carol.
and who's that?
And who's
Dad.
that?
Dad.
Rob Thompson.
Dad.
Rob Thompson. All right. Hey, Rob. You got quite an incredible wife there. We love her. Hey, how have you guys all been?
We miss you.
We miss you. Everybody misses everybody. We saw a video of you at Marianne doing your morning meeting. And you had some funny spectacles on. And I think you might have had did you have an attached mustache?
Yeah. You.
Yeah, put them on. I want to see you. Oh, look, I love it. I love it. And if Greg,
Wait, let him talk.
there's a picture that we have of you and me, Marianne, that I remember from a holiday party that we went to. And I was wearing a very, very sexy blazer, as you can see. There it is. You have your beautiful sweater. I don't know if this business is about ugly Christmas sweaters. Marianne, you need to get yourself a T-shirt that is on our website, the Social Distancing Champions. But we had a little time to talk there, and I remember Matthew saying, I don't think I'd known you, Janice, before. Really, I had a chance to get to know you. And, hi, you get right up to the street.
All
right. We can't hear
Just let her
Jan,
do
hon.
It's okay.
Let him talk.
Well, we hadn't had a chance to get to know your family, and Matthew Avery, who was the director at the time, said, "Oh my gosh, this is just the most incredible family, and such an important just part of the Martin Center."
Listen, he's talking about you.
So, why don't you talk? Why don't we let Marianne talk and talk about what it is you guys have been doing and how you're using virtual programming?
What have you been doing since you've been home? Oh, coloring.
Every morning.
Marianne, hey Marianne, will you sit back and show us your schedule?
And she
So
can
you've
get
got your, and I like how you call it home path. That's awesome.
Mary
So
Ann
it's
runs
your-
the meeting with her gavel.
Oh, or gavel, okay.
starts it, And
And
Rob
then
and
what do you do?
I have the meeting every day about 9 o'clock.
State of affairs, I saw that. Yeah.
Don't you love Dan's t-shirt?
Oh, your shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, her shirt. She wants you to like her shirt.
I love it.
All
Got
right, now,
both orange and black. So orange is the new black, and you've got the black and the.
all right, listen.
Hey, Marianne, what's the sign behind you? What does it say? Your head's blocking it.
Love you.
Now,
NuPath.
that has got to be about the best background I've seen in all of the virtual interviewing that we've been doing.
Listen.
So we miss you, Marianne. I mean, do you miss work? You miss Dahab? What'd you say?
You miss NuPath?
And thank everyone who thanked you. You're not on vacation. What is going on? It's a what?
Why are you home? Because of the virus.
Right.
Right. Well, you know what? We're glad that you guys are keeping busy and active while you're home. And you know, you probably like seeing Rosa. Was it last week we saw Rosa? You're from Mother's Day? And you said, Janice, that you guys missed the live broadcast, but you were able to watch it later on, you know,
Yes.
for when you got back. So that was good
It
to
was
see it.
so beautiful. We loved every minute of it.
What else have you been doing, Janice, with these days,
have
long
been-
days?
I have a picture, another visual. Carol took Mary Ann for a ride last week, and she actually went to outside of the Marie Martin Center to show Mary Ann there were no cars, everyone's home, it's the virus, we're just getting through it. And so Mary Ann posed in front of the entrance. Remember? You like that? Yeah. We've
It
been
made
going
me
on
sad.
walks.
It makes me sad.
Mary Ann, wear a
Oh yeah.
You want a little help? Well, it took about 2 weeks, but finally she put it on and kept it on for a
Oh,
whole
wow.
trip.
And she even
outside.
so she went to Walgreens because she was able to keep her mask on.
Oh, good. Well,
Right.
you're a brave adventurer then, huh?
All right.
All right. Let's let Dan talk now.
So it sounds like it's a real team effort. What else have you been doing? You've been getting out a little bit. You've been sticking to routines. You've been doing your morning meeting and it looks like some arts and crafts based on the.
Zoom. I don't know what we'd do without Holly. I'm shouting out to Holly, Rosa, Justin, of course you, the hero of my life, Dan Lannon, Sharon Pitts, Melissa, Jen, all the nurses, all the direct care staff, Rita, and we've gotten at
Hey,
least
your head's
5
down there.
wellness calls. And the wellness calls are amazing. I don't know how people find the time, but it means
I never had a wellness call. Will you tell us what what it entails?
we get a phone call. Hi, this is, Denissa's called a lot. This is Denissa checking in on you and Mary Ann. How's it going? How you feeling? How's your health? Lasts a few minutes, but it's everything. Sometimes Mary Ann listens, sometimes no. But it's
Sit
been
up, honey.
great.
You
Sit
know,
up so
this
they
is
can-
why we've just seen in full bloom why you're so special to this organization, Janice, and Marianne too. But you are such an encourager. You really are. And some of the stuff the notes that are sometimes forwarded to me, and I've been the personal recipient of some of your beautiful expressions of things. You know, not everybody is quite as appreciative as you are. You're just a treasure to have in our ranks, and I know the staff just value you. You heard Rosa say last week, oh, she's the best family ever. That it means a lot to us because our staff are working very, very hard, and the nursing team. And I think you really hit everybody with your sort of descriptors of everybody that you included there. But it just means so much to me is in this position to hear that our staff are, what we're doing is making a difference for our families, and that you're going through so much on your own. Is there anything we can do for you that's not currently being done? Can you think of any ways that we could help you that we're not already doing?
Honestly, and we haven't missed a unity except the most important one last week, but we watched it Saturday, and all I did was cry. Anyway, everything you say makes me laugh, and then you make me cry because you go from the top of everything, poetic, beautiful, and then when we think about your mom, because you lost your dad the year we lost our mom 3 years ago, 17. This next week will be 3 years for my mom. Mary Ann's lived with Rob and I for 10 years, and although for 30 years we've been picking her up every weekend when we moved back here from the West. But long story short, couldn't live without it. I mean, our parents never, ever even suggested we have Mary Ann, but Rob and I decided in our 30s, that young age, there was no other, that's what we were going to do until we couldn't anymore. And we're still doing it, still loving it. Couldn't do it without we're so fortunate because Carol and her husband, Billy, my niece and nephew, Molly and Ben, they live upstairs. So we're so lucky. We all have each other, and it works, But one of the most incredible things, now I'm talking too much, is Mary has been going to NuPath, previously CMARC, for 31 years. She's 53 now, and I am 66, and Carol's 59. So Mary Ann started NuPath at 22, and she's 53.
Oh my God. It's been a long time.
Listen to what he said.
Wow. That is incredible. What, Mary Ann?
You should be present.
See, I love
First of all, I can't believe you've been there that long, nor that you're that old.
What do you want to say? All right, stop yelling.
Well, Mary Ann, you know what? You take good care of yourself because you have been blessing many, many people over those long years at NuPath. And Janice, Carol, your whole family, you've been a blessing on any words, poetic or otherwise, that I could say. And we just appreciate, your support that comes in so many different ways. And we hope that you'll let us know if there's anything that we can do more for you. And we look forward to that happy reunion someday soon when we can all be in a room together and dance the night away, cheek to cheek, and forget social distancing. Social distancing, be damned. What's up, Barry?
All right, listen.
And I'll maybe even wear, if it's around the holidays, I'll even wear my blazer because I know it's such a dashing element in my wardrobe that I would not want to hold that from anybody. So, all right, Mary Ann, hey, you have a great weekend. We miss you. We love you. We want you to stay healthy and well. Hey, and now, hey, Janice, now this is the most important Unity Forum that's ever been had because you're in it. And you guys can watch us on YouTube again and again and again. Mary Ann, you're a superstar. I hope you enjoy watching yourself.
Bye bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Good to see you. Take care of yourself, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, that was so great. Oh my God. Oh, so many wonderful people out there. And if you're watching today, and if you're one of our one of our true and steadfast audience that continue to log in every week for another edition of This Week, I just thank you. Personally thank you. People get nervous, doing this, and it requires setting time aside and being present and available, and God, never mind like what I'm going to ask people, worrying about that. That's obviously a concern. No, it shouldn't be, but it's really an honor to talk with our guests today, and we thank them all again. And and all those now growing in number. I'm going to put together a list of everybody who's been participating in this, because I think in such important ways it's helped to reinforce the concepts that you've heard me say again and again that are so important, of community, unity, belonging. These are the first three that we have that are just so much a part of how we're approaching this pandemic and how we're going to get through it together. So wherever you may be in this crazy distance world of ours, although it's a gorgeous day today, but wherever you may be, I wish you all the very best, and urge you to remain healthy and safe, and to come back to us as soon as we possibly can. We love you, we need you, and we're going to get through this, because we got this. We got this, guys. Have a great weekend, everyone. We will see you next week. Bye. Take care.